was about as darn easy as it gets.
The client just couldn't make up their mind.
I feel like we had top.
Went from a project of 20 weeks to just 2.
The DevOps was a cultural shift.
This is Teams Tuesday with your host, Peter Ward.
Welcome to Teams Tuesday, a podcast about mastering the best about what other people have already figured out. Teams Tuesday focuses on insights and lessons that never expire. You will walk away from every episode with actionable insights that help you get better results and be more productive.
Welcome to Teams Tuesday. So we've got a great guest here, Tom Daly. Okay, I would give you a round of applause, but we don't have any audience here. So welcome to Teams Tuesday. How are you doing?
Good, thanks for having me. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Okay, so I think we've known each other since about 2009, isn't it, really?
Right, yeah, it's been a long time.
The whole SharePoint Saturdays, and I know you live down in New Jersey, and my understanding, just tell us a little bit about what city you live in, your family, and your hobbies. So
I'm down in Tinton Falls. It's kind of near Asbury Park. That's probably what people would have known. It's a little bit off the shore, like 10 miles inland. Been down here pretty much my whole life. We've always lived down here, like in this, I wouldn't say South Jersey. I would call it like lower central Jersey for those people that know about New Jersey. I'm like exit 100 on the Parkway.
What's in terms of Jersey Shore summer? What was your what beaches did you go to as a kid?
We stay down like in Seaside. We go down to Seaside, Island State Beach Park, that kind of. We go, but we also lived in Brick. But those are the places that we would go back then. A little bit more. I have a wife and 2 kids, 2 little girls. Who's turning 6? One's turning 6. The other one just turned 3. So they're keeping me busy.
Bit of a handful, and I'm sure you get in your SUV or your hybrid SUV. They you load everything up there, and you try and do day trips or drive away vacations.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be starting to drive away somewhere soon. But last year was a wash, so we're looking forward to like some trips this year.
Tell me, what are your hobby? I know you got some cats.
Yeah, I got a cat. It's a weird cat. We rescued the cat from a garbage can, and we also have a dog, Boston Terrier. I love Boston Terriers.
So whose idea was it to rescue the cat? Was it yourself or your wife's?
No, it wasn't mine.
I didn't realize you were so caring and sharing. Actually,
No. We do take care of our animals. Like we live like sort of on the woods. We have a lot of animals that come in. They run across the street, and like sometimes we'll go out there and stop traffic so that they can get across the street. So yeah, we like animals. We take care of animals.
I obviously know what your job title is and who you work for, but because you obviously work for the same company. Okay, so just for the benefit of the attendees, what's your job title and who exactly do you work for?
So my job title is I'm the collaboration director at Soho Dragon. So what does that mean? That means I work with a lot of customers that are on M365 or have items in Azure or anything related to Office 365 Teams, and can help them solve business problems and come up with unique solutions or ways that we can help achieve their goals.
Right. I know, so like in terms of the community outreach, you run the New Jersey M365 group. Is that still running? You're obviously not meeting physically. Is that still working remotely?
It is, and I have an organizer that works with me. He also runs the SharePoint Saturdays and M365 Saturdays in Pennsylvania. So, I've been taking like a back seat on that one, just supporting. I've run it though for, oh my God, I don't even know how many years. Like, I've been involved with it for like at least plus 10 years, and I've been running it myself for 6 or 7 years, like just single-handedly by myself. So it's good to have help.
Because you were moderating at a recent SharePoint Saturday, weren't you?
Yeah, I do help out in other events. So M365 Chicago, I did a session there and I moderated the rest of the day.
Right.
Then I helped organize the M365 for Philadelphia. And again, a lot of people that maybe the locals might know me from New York, SharePoint Saturday in New York, M365 New York. So we just take a sidestep, backseat on that as well, because there's a lot of virtual events and it's overload, and we're just holding out till we can meet, and we are going to go back once Microsoft allows us to come back to the office.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest SharePoint Saturdays in North America, about 800 registrations, 600 plus attendees. Is that one of the biggest in the world, or don't you know?
Yeah, so as far as I know, there's another, in terms of like the grassroots M365 events, yeah, there's a couple other like semi-big ones. Like Twin Cities, I know, is a big one. I have not gone there, but I hear that's massive as well. But yeah, we're one of the biggest ones on the East Coast, I'd say, is like a free event.
All right. Okay. Just tell us a little bit more on the whole SharePoint stuff. Just tell us one thing about yourself that not many people know.
I guess so I don't like to like not have anything to do. I don't like to sit still. I don't really like to watch TV too much. So I'm always busy doing something, whatever it is, hobbies, or I'm always active. Like I cannot sit still. But it's not always like chaotic, it's pretty much like, okay, I like peace and quiet as well. So I like my quiet office. And when you think of like you're busy, I always want to be like doing something noise. No, I like doing stuff like quiet, like quiet
Right.
stuff.
So let's just talk a little bit about yourself. Okay. What was your first job out of college?
Out of college? Oh man, I did an intern like in college. And then so out of college, it was a tongue twister here. It's called Comp Tutor Computer Center. So
TCC.
it was like, that was it. Comp Tutor. It was like had initials too. Nobody could ever pronounce it. They were like computer tutor. Hey, computer tutor. So there, what did we do? It was like a mom and pop shop, mom and pop computer shop, but more like training. It was like an internet cafe before there was like internet, like real internet. They had, we would fix computers, we would do graphic design, we would do training. So I would do all these things because I've been fixing computers since I was 15 years old. So like when this guy found me, he was like, wow, we'll send you out. I only have to pay you like $8 and I'll charge the customer like a fortune. And I was building websites since I was young, 15 years old.
What year are we talking about here?
I think it's back in, it has to be like around 2001. 2001. No, that was when I graduated. 2003, somewhere around there.
Right.
I don't know exactly the time frame, but yeah, it was somewhere around 2001 to 2003 time. And that was up in West Orange, New Jersey. And it's no longer there, but I think he's still in business, actually.
Mm-hmm. All right. And then what was your first version of SharePoint?
Well, that I got started with at Fort Monmouth. I was actually installing it and using it. It was SharePoint Portal Server 2001. So we used that on our master's project. But 2003 just came out, so we scrapped 2001 quickly because of how nice it was. We wanted to upgrade it to 2003, so we installed that. That's the kind of first version I started to really get into.
Okay, so 2000, I know that's when you had WSPs, and that's also when you had Portal Server and then the team sites as well.
Yeah, we used it. We were pretty much lightweight at that time. I wasn't customizing it until I got a job with SharePoint. Then I would start to learn. The first thing was how to build the web parts. That was the number one. And then the number two thing that I was working on at the time was like, how do we change the way it looks? that kind of stuff.
Right. Okay, so let's just talk about some of your SharePoint work. What was your last challenging project and why?
Oh my God, there's so many challenging products. Yeah. So, this part of the thing is this, what I'm doing now is the provisioning. I would say like this was one of the biggest challenges was around December last year. I was working on provisioning. I've been working on provisioning for a year, and it was always the same one way to do it. You use PnP provisioning, PowerShell. We would put that up in Azure. There was a way in Azure you can support legacy languages. I forgot, classic languages. And you can load those in there. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of the year, Azure changed and they stopped supporting the legacy languages. So you could no longer, if you had them running, they would work. But it would be like a hack to sort of break it down.
Give me an example. What was the legacy languages that they stopped supporting?
The legacy, it was just like an option. So it was like the V1 of the PowerShell in Azure, which could run PnP PowerShell, which is a .NET app, .NET development. So when they got rid of it, it just didn't run anymore. And what they were supporting was like .NET Core. So you can't run the .NET app, the .NET 4.0 thing on like a .NET Core. It just wouldn't work. So tough part about this was that Microsoft never updated their documentation. So there was like no way forward. I had to like figure it out. And PnP PowerShell, it's the V4 now, that was not really released until January. So it was like a blind spot right then and there. So if you wanted provisioning towards the end of the year, you were using Azure V3, and then you were using the PowerShell PnP modules, but you were using like the pre-release. They were like officially released, but you know, when things come out and they're officially released, they don't always work so great. And
there's not always the documentation or the community behind it either.
Yeah, so that was like a rough patch during that time at the end of the year, because again, I was working on a provisioning thing on this, like just examples and putting together different presentations, and I wasn't finding some good. I wasn't really, you know, for me, dealing with it for a full year and then having to change everything. So I get a lot of questions on my blog, because I blog stuff like on that topic. I get a lot of questions come in through there, like people are just confused. They're not understanding PowerShell, the new one versus the old one. What's in Azure? You know, where's this button in Azure? How do we use the new Azure V3 functions? So it's a tricky area, I would say that.
But didn't you see this coming? Because with the product roadmap, why were you? It sounds to me you're a bit blindsided here. But there's a product roadmap here, which you can see what's coming down, what's going to be discontinued.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the toggle thing being pulled off. So my plan was always to use the classic like older way, I'd say, like the way that I've been doing it for a while. And then they did say that they were going to stop support. Yes, they did. Now that I'm recalling the email. And I was like, okay, well, maybe the new stuff will be ready in time. Okay. But it wasn't so lucky.
Confirms my theory. Nobody reads emails anyway.
Yeah. You know what? There's so many emails and there's so many announcements. That's a problem. And one of my technical challenges is like, how do you keep up on everything? It's really overwhelming. You got to be almost like a machine, you know, program into your day, just be monitoring. And then you forget stuff. You know, you start working on something else and you forget things. So
for the audience, what techniques do you do to keep abreast of it all?
Yeah, it's like the fire hose of information that comes out. So how do you follow along, right? So the biggest thing for me is I would prefer recording over a live session, because I can two-speed it. You know, I can speed it up. So I'll follow some podcasts. You know, I'll follow like Intrazone. I'll follow some Microsoft blogs. Again, like I'll take at least an hour, not an hour a day, but maybe like 30 minutes a day, just like to read certain things and just to stay fresh on different items. I do go on Twitter and I have a lot of other MVPs I follow that they post way more than me. So they post like legit, they're like it feels like a news feed just watching what they're posting. So I'll check in articles there as well. And again, yeah, it's just the cumulative, like it's a little bit each day, but that's what adds up. But I do get caught, like even as an MVP, people sort of think like, oh, you're up to date on all like the latest stuff. No, that's not necessarily true. I mean, sometimes I hear it from a customer that a feature was released because I looked this way at something else and then something else came out. Mm-hmm. So I don't always stay, and it's a challenge to try to stay. I mean, there's people that do this really well. I just do the best that I can because it's overwhelming, and you kind of get as a regular worker, like how do you stay up to date? Like it's just too much. You know, you just take little bits at a time and you try to stay up to date as much as possible. That you just do the best you can do.
Who are the two people on Twitter you typically follow for this information?
I like Matt Wade's and Sean Bolger's podcast. I like to watch that. There's a couple other people. I know Susan Hanley always puts out stuff that I read. There's a couple other ones that I really look at. Development, you know, there's always a development. David Warner is posting everything about PnP, so I read all his updates as well.
All right, let's just talk a bit more about SharePoint. You know, you've been doing this SharePoint for actually almost 20 years now.
Yeah.
Give me
dinosaur.
I know. Give me a good SharePoint train wreck project. What did you learn from it as well?
Yeah. I guess this one goes back. I guess because it's early in my career, I just kind of know how to stay away from train wrecks in a sense nowadays, or you could see them coming, the lights coming down the tracks. You know it's a train. So early on, when I first started, and you know, it was like I think SharePoint version 2010, so it wasn't too early. I was working on a public website for a customer. I'm not going to say it because, it's not going to matter if I did say it, but public website. And I was working in Designer, I had to change some web parts. And this is like a well-used site. It was pretty well known and well used, and it has to do with computers, and it's one of the top computer chip manufacturers. And I don't know what happened. SharePoint Designer crashed when I was editing one of the web parts. And when it crashed, it took all the web parts off the page. So when I went to the page, it was empty. And I'm like freaking out because like, who am I going to call to get a backup? Like, how do I get it back up? Right? How do I rebuild it? So I tried a couple things like version. Turns out versions don't save web parts on the SharePoint page. They don't. So it would restore like a content zone. It wouldn't restore the web part. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm like, this is kind of like the scariest moment that's happened to me in a long time. I looked in, since I wasn't doing a lot of their design work, I had a screenshot from maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So I was able to rebuild it, but it wasn't exactly perfect. But then I told my boss, I told the customer, I said, look, something happened with this one web part. It broke. I tried to restore it. It didn't really, I think it's a little outdated. Let's take a look at it. So ultimately, it wasn't a big deal because I was able to rebuild it. But I learned when you're using Designer, always make a backup of the page that you're going to edit. Doesn't really apply today, but it does in a sense, like always take a backup. Because if you think something's not going to work and you think there's a potential of a loss, take a backup. And the same thing with PowerPoint. I've written documents in PowerPoint. It's supposed to autosave. Sometimes it doesn't autosave. So
on your SharePoint Designer, I've experienced this, that sometimes it would close the web parts and there was like a URL you could extend onto the page and it would show you all your closed web parts to bring them all back. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, there is. It was like contents equals 1.
Yes.
And you would put that on your page to show you the web parts. These web parts were gone, but they were totally gone. But yeah, that's a good trick. It would work and show you all the close, because most of the time customers go on the page and click close on the little arrow, and they'd be like, the web part's gone.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
it's there, and then they see they have 5 of them because they kept re-adding it and closing it.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen that many times. I've seen that numerous times. I've done SharePoint training with the classic on that front. Okay, so now we're in the glorious world of Office 365 or Microsoft 365. What's your favorite feature and tool, and why?
It's like another thing that I do love. I do like Teams Mobile because it really, really makes it easy for me to step away from my desk but still be connected. So, we're all working from home. I like to, at my lunchtime, take a walk, go to the gym, but I don't always disconnect. I'll still stay connected because I want to, if someone's got something, I'll tell them, okay, I'll be back, in 30 minutes, I'll be back in 20 minutes, or I want to go get lunch. I don't want to feel like, I always want to be available to people on my team. And yes, I do unplug, but Teams also on the phone allows me to switch organizations. So a problem as a consultant is I'm a member of like 6 or 7 teams. Anytime we sign a new project, somebody wants to give me their Office 365 account, and then they want me to answer emails, they want me to answer Teams on there. And that's just like physically impossible to be part of 7 teams at a time and get notifications. But on Teams on the mobile, it will tell me when someone pings me from another team. The desktop doesn't do that.
Well, that's true. That's why I'm increasingly using Teams in the browser. Okay, so with the Chrome browser with different profiles for the clients, I'll use Teams on that.
Yeah.
So at least I can get to the message pretty quickly.
Yeah, a lot of people do it with the Google profiles. I use a program called Rambox, and Rambox allows you to add, it's like a desktop application with tabs, and you can add multiple tenants. I actually have multiple emails, multiple tenants, so you can add Slack, you can add all kinds of other programs into that. And I find that useful, but it doesn't do, it's basically a web client, like a Chrome tab, but it doesn't do screen sharing. So it's got a limitation with that. So that's why it's difficult if I have to screen share, jump organization, so the profiles, Google Chrome will allow you to screen share, which is nice.
In terms of where do you think Microsoft is going with Office M365?
M365, I mean, obviously they want to take over everything in terms of computing power, productivity. Like they want everybody like using their productivity suite, like Doc.
I've always wanted that, haven't we?
Yeah, they always want that, and it's but by integrating multiple ways to get to it, like Teams now, you can edit the documents. I mean, you've been able to do that, but it's another application that extends the core productivity suite, like Excel and Word. So they just want everybody using that, and then like Azure being able to, you know, protect the information on all the devices, and they're really just taking over everything, you know, there.
Okay, so we look at Teams is obviously rock and roll, and with Azure, that's where a lot of the focus in. So they're adding in a lot of the features. In terms of Teams, what would you say, what would it be a really cool feature you would like to see in Teams that's not there?
Really cool feature. What I just explained. If they can have if we can put a way in Teams where we can switch from one customer to the next fast, quickly, you know, that would be the game changer. In terms of, I just use Teams like a regular person. I just make phone calls and I chat. I mean, search would be a good feature too. A better search so you know, I'm finding that a lot of conversations are happening in Teams, right? But I can't necessarily flag stuff like I do in my email to find it later. You know, when I find something important.
Well, you have the save feature, don't you, in Teams?
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, and then what I do in Outlook is I like to search on my flags, or I'll like filter by my flags. So being able to search a little better in Teams would be nicer. That's really it. I'm very simple. Like I don't have like this crazy business case. Like I don't need like all kinds of crazy stuff. I just need to be able to communicate, and I think it's coming a long way. I think it's like really shaping up from where it was when it first came out.
Well, there's almost 4 years now. But yeah, it's amazing
like what the innovation that they're pumping into the Teams with, you know, the recent thing, the webinars came out, right? So that was like one of the that was a cool feature. We used to do webinars for the user group. A lot of these features are really nice there, but in terms of my day-to-day, that would be like the game changer if I could switch tenants quickly.
Okay, so here we are, the extravaganza of the meetup. You're going to do a demo, so that means you're going to have to share your screen.
Yeah, let me share my screen, and we'll get the demo going. All right, so here we go. So before I jump into, let me pull up a slide really quickly and show. We're going to do a demo on Teams provisioning. So this is a simple thing that I built for a couple M365 Saturdays. And I'm just going to show you something cool that I built. And again, this was built, we have a couple versions of this thing going for some clients. The concept is like, okay, yeah, managing Teams provisioning automatically, right? So when someone puts in a request, somebody can review the request, they can approve it. It automatically will be created and provisioned with the proper naming, and then it will inform the user that their team was either, you know, denied or approved. So what we have is a watered down version of this process here for demo purposes, because we only have a few minutes to go through. But the idea is the users add an item to SharePoint, puts it on a list, kicks off a Power Automate. The Power Automate, using the beta actions, they'll create the Microsoft Teams for us. We have some steps in here for Active Directory, which I removed. But what happens is when the team's created, you get back the ID of the team. You don't get back the URL for SharePoint. So, you know, we use Azure Active Directory. We use MS Graph actually to query some additional information about the team that was created, like the site URL, and then we write this information back to SharePoint. Okay. Azure Active Directory just authenticates, saying like, okay, this Power App can ask for this information, and we can give it back. Let me get rid of that.
That looks good. All
right. So let's jump over to the demo, and I will bring this up. All right, so what are we looking at? So again, and the thing about this demo, when I do it for the M365 Saturdays, is it covers multiple different technologies, like SharePoint, Power Automate, Power Apps, Teams, Microsoft Graph, Azure Active Directory. So it always gets picked because it's got all the buzzwords in there.
Yep.
So here's a concept for one of the customers asked for like a knowledge management for their team sites, right? They want, not team sites, their project sites. So every project that they build, they want a team, and then they want a SharePoint site they want to be able to find them and sort through them, and like this is their project directory. So they're another consulting company, and they want to build out projects. So they have whenever somebody signs a new deal or whatever, they would go in, and again, you can automate the application. You can get a deal automatically from another system. You can extend this. This is just one way to do it. So we're going to go to apply. So behind the scenes, we have a list. Oh, snap. Okay. It's right here. It's just a general list with a couple different columns. Like I have a column for approved, a column for provisioned, admins, title, that kind of stuff. And then on the list, I created a Power App. So I'm going to load the Power App here. So we're going to go to apply. And give a second. It's very slow today. I don't know why. It's like my computer, the internet. So this is my Power App, and it's very basic, just a few fields, but you can go crazy with Power App. You can put in instructions on how to do this. You can have more fields for like a description on why you need this team. You can go as wild as you want. For this example, we're going to just put in a title. So I will say demo 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if we want, we can add who we think is going to be the admin. Right, so we're just using some of these people pickers, and we'll say we're going to do visitor 1 and visitor 2, and then do that. And then we'll save it. Yep. So what this is going to do is kick off the flow in the background. So let's go over to flow. Did you want to say something? I can cut you off.
No. Well, looks good.
Yeah, again, so this is the last demo I did. So hopefully, cross my fingers, it failed a few times earlier today. We'll see if it works.
The joy of a live demo.
Yeah, it's something timed out because I haven't used it in a while, so it's the fun part. So we'll just give it a 10-15 seconds for it to, there it is. So we'll take a look at the running flow, and we can see the steps here on just the basic steps. So items created in SharePoint, it's going to use these actions here to create a team, and you can see it's coming in with the demo 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't take too long to go to the next step. Now it's applying, adding a member. So it's adding these ones are set up to be owners with this value true, and it's the same control, but the owners group was set to false. So this will add them as a member. Then it will update the list item in SharePoint. It'll send me an email, which I should have here now. Yep, my team was provisioned. You're awesome. Right, and then you can have it send a note in Teams as well. Yep, so I got a card here from my flow, and this will say, hey, your team is provisioned. The one step I did cut out here was going to graph. That was the one that was failing in the demo, so I cut that out, but I'll show you in Azure, we had to set up an Azure app registration, and then we just say we wanted to read the groups, and we created a token for it. That for whatever reason it just kept breaking, so I pulled that out. But that would allow us to get more information about the project. And now when we come back to our list, right? If we come back to our list, we can see now we have demo 1, 2, 3, 4. I haven't even refreshed the page. It just automatically pulls in the new thing, and you can see the site URL is blank because that's the part that we would have to get from the graph call. So it's a very simple process to provision teams. Yes, so where can you improve this? You can build in your flow. You can build in approval process here with your flow, and you can do that with just some of the actions. You can do that. Let's see if it takes forever. Let's say add an action. We can say a condition, right? We actually have to send the approval. We have to do an approval first.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go into it because we're only here on a few minutes. But yes, you can start and wait for an approval. So you can create an approval. You can wait for an approval, and then you can just set up different conditions, like if this, if that, do this, do that, and build out this thing. If you had to do some really crazy stuff, some advanced things, maybe you want to copy stuff into the team or create stuff with the inside SharePoint, or change SharePoint, you can call Azure Functions and do whatever it is code-wise that you would need. Some of the stuff we talked about earlier, PowerShell PnP, you could call PowerShell PnP to connect into SharePoint through Azure as well. So there's a lot you could do with it. This is just the basics. Quick little demo.
Okay.
Something cool.
I like it. This is the whole thing of SharePoint sprawl and Teams sprawl, which is coming about. So if you can provision it and have the approval, that makes a big difference as well. Okay, so coming bits to the end. Let me have a quick rapid fire questions. What was your first job out of high school?
First job out of high school, college. It's like, yeah, starting college. I delivered pizzas. I delivered pizzas and washed dishes at a pizzeria that one of my friends of a family owned.
All right. What's your biggest nightmare project that you've ever worked on? And what do you learn?
I work on so many nightmare projects. I work on because again I get called in a lot of times, like standard jobs. We get called in to clean things up. So there's a lot of nightmare projects when you walk into somebody else's code. Typically, it's a nightmare project. But yeah, I've just learned to just boil it down into bits and bytes and try to process pieces at a time. Pretty much walking into anyone's code is like a nightmare project.
What could be done to avoid that? It's good documentation.
Yeah, documentation. If people did code reviews, a lot of times it's just like one person sitting in a dark corner coding away, right? Who never really was properly trained, or, it just never trained underneath somebody about good coding practices, or they walked into an organization where there were already bad coding practices. Because this happened to me early on too. I was signed up to be a developer at a place and thought I'd be taught by the senior developers, and it wasn't, not taught, but kind of guided. And it turns out that wasn't the case. So it was like self-taught. And it wasn't until I started working with my friend Paul, who really pushed me to get better and call me out on stuff, So I think code reviews in certain cases are really good in the organization, and cross-training, demos, show and tell, that kind of things can really improve everybody's skill, because it's going to show you'll see things, you'll say, I'm weak, look, that's great, I need to step up my game. Or you might do stuff that you wouldn't normally do to improve their code based on the fact that you have to show it to somebody, right? So I think that's a lot, you see that a lot.
Right, okay. What's the best and worst tech advice you've been given? Start off with the best.
Okay, so the best thing recently was that don't ever count yourself out. If you want something, you have to go for it, and you cannot be afraid to fail. Failure is part of the game. It's part of the process. You're going to fail 1,000 times. It's the people, you get what you want by continuing to get back up when you fail, or whatever it is, your job. You want to get paid more. You want to learn a new technology. You want to be an artist. Whatever it is, you can't be afraid to fail. So that's probably the best advice. I say don't count yourself out. A lot of times when I'm submitting content for these conferences, I'm always like thinking I'm not going to get picked. I'm not good enough. These people are better. But you can't make that decision for yourself. You have to put it out there and let the world decide if it's good enough or not. So
I do hear that a lot, where people say one of the best things they've observed is how quick people can actually pick themselves up and continue. Not so much how hard they work, but how well they can actually pick themselves up from a setback.
Yeah, that's probably one of the most important pieces of advice.
Okay, what's your worst then? Worst.
I find this funny. I think I wrote this down when I was doing the pre-interview thing. I was saying, like, follow your passion, right? So my passion was always to do computers. What does that mean, right? What, building websites, building games, like passion. When you tell people early on, follow your passion, like that doesn't always work out good for somebody. Find something you like to do, and then just like excel, do it the best that you can, become the best at it. Like, find something you like and be the best. That's it. I wouldn't go be like, okay, follow your passion. It might not be the right job. Your passions change all the time too.
No, I hear. That makes sense. What are you working on to become a better developer?
Well, I did a couple things that were kind of strange, and I shared them with you early on. I hired somebody to be a code mentor, just to review some of my code on the side. So when I was learning React, I hired somebody to help me with just like reviewing the code, the architecture. I also, when I was learning like MobX, which is another which is like a Flux type of thing. So it's just another technology. I didn't have all the experience. The quickest way I could get up to speed is to learn from somebody that has it. So picking their brain, I do something, I actually had it built already, and then I just had them take a look at it. Mm-hmm. So I like that, but it's hard to find the right people for that. So I'm always looking for like a mentor in a sense, like whether it's for I would always love a coding mentor, but even just a professional, like career advice type of mentor, like that's how I can succeed. You know, that's how the best way to succeed is to have somebody that you can talk to that's not on your level or not below you, but they're like what you consider above you. You always want somebody above you to pull, like not pull you up, but to give you the right tools to get to the next level, to up your game.
Right. What's your blind spot in building up your knowledge with the Microsoft stack?
Blind spot. I'm always kind of blindsided by like an announcement or a roadmap. Like earlier we talked about this. You know, I stay up to date as much as I possibly can, but it's like not possible being a human being and, you know, staying up to date with all the information that's coming out. You have to, you have to be a machine, you know. So getting the information boiled down in like the podcast is great. But yeah, I wish I could do a better job on just the consistency of reading this information. I get to it, but it's like, you know, I have to be a little bit more consistent on consuming more information.
Where do you want to be in 5 years?
5 years, hopefully, I'll still be at the same job. I'm not one of those people who are like, oh yeah, 5 years I'll be working at SpaceX. You know, I'm going to be like, I want to be where I am. I'm pretty, for people that know me, I'm like a pretty loyal person, like where I stick with something for a longer time. I don't just like jump ship every couple years. And I know 5 years, oh my God, if you work 5 years in the same company, that's crazy. You know, you could go, obviously jump and go. I would love to be working for the same company, just a different, not even in a different role. I think I'm in the role. It's just going to be transforming over time, working more with our team, growing our business, growing our client base, helping with different like programs and outreach and all different things, just growing our practice on the Microsoft 365 side. Sure.
Where can people find you?
Well, you can find me, my blog, thomasdaly.net, and you can send me questions through there, or you can check out this provisioning example. I just did it. There's a video up on there on the exact steps to create this process, and that'll get you started. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Thomas M. Daly, and then Twitter, it's a weird on _ Tom Daly, DALY _.
Okay.
And it's easy to find me. Connect with me, reach out, and I'd be happy to, you know, answer questions about the demo. The slides are up there too from the last event.
Okay. Tom, thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I'll talk to you next time.
Okay, we're out of time, unfortunately.
All right. Okay. Take care, everybody.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Bye.
And for all the attendees, thank you for attending. I hope this was of value. This will be recorded and pushed up onto the Meetup and landing pages and through LinkedIn. And also we're going to be wrapping this up as a podcast on Spotify as well. So this is just some total reboot of how we're doing the formatting. So any questions or feedback, feel free to give these to us.